Hello, welcome again to this week's conversation about Bitcoin mining with the founder and owner of Liquihash, Nic Campesi. Thanks for joining me again, Nic.
Hey, good morning, Riley.
So to jump right in, my first question for you is, many people are worrying about the recent drop in Bitcoin mining profitability during the most recent drop in Bitcoin price. But doesn't that mean this is the best time to start mining ahead of the curve?
Yes. Look, certainly hash price could continue going down from here. I wouldn't be surprised to see it drop further. But, if you go and you look at the people that have been, the most successful, the largest public miners, the private miners that were able to build up a very formidable amount of hash rate, they're all doing it at times that are, when things kind of look the bleakest, because your bias is to the upside. And, I was on the phone with someone this morning and kind of explaining how, sometimes you can buy these machines that are, basically at break even or non-profitable for next to nothing. And you plug them in and if you've got, low enough cost operation, you're able to operate where this is almost like a call option on the price of Bitcoin, where, all of a sudden, if Bitcoin quadruples from here, your investment could 10x. And so it is a leverage play very much on the price of Bitcoin without necessarily exposing yourself to too much downside.
And there's another concept that's been floating around in the world of Bitcoin mining. Everyone's talking about Bitcoin halving. What does this mean, and does it affect Bitcoin miners?
Yeah, so, approximately every 4 years, the emission schedule, which is the daily block reward, is currently sitting at about 900 for miners solving blocks. Okay, so 900 Bitcoin plus some transaction fees are competed for every day, in the Bitcoin mining space. That's going to go to 450 a day. It's halving, goes to half. So each block subsidy currently at 6.25. If you go back to April of 2020, May of 2020, right when we halved again, or have last, that was 12 and a half. So it's going to, at 6.25, now it'll go to 3.125 at the next halving. And so it's a pre-programmed number. This is going to happen. It's in Bitcoin Core, and it started out the first reward was 50 Bitcoin per block. It goes down and down and down. So it's a self-regulating mechanism where, when people start to understand that this is a very low inflation to a deflationary asset, that you are going to see, when you price it in dollar terms, the price is going to go up.
And more Bitcoin mining facilities are coming to West Texas. So why specifically West Texas?
Yeah, look, if you look on a map, West Texas is probably the best place in the world to mine Bitcoin. And there's a number of reasons. Okay, first, let's look at its energy. You've got rich nat gas out in that area. Oil and gas, that's very, very dense energy. It's an excellent spot for solar, and it's an excellent spot for wind. Now, wind and solar being more intermittent, but not being able to get those into the grid, often the prices go negative. So, if you have a piece of land out there and you can get some infrastructure, you can get time, you put in the work. West Texas is probably the lowest cost, or let's say one of the lowest cost places in the world to mine Bitcoin, and or just to get by energy in general. But you also have two things. One, the U.S. being a as of now, a favorable place to be, and a spot where you can operate and mine Bitcoin. But then on the state side, the state of Texas has opened their arms to Bitcoin miners. So West Texas, with it being deregulated and its openness to understanding the benefits that Bitcoin can help stabilize the grid and help build out that infrastructure out there. That's the reason why everyone's flocking to that spot. It's gonna kind of, this perfect mix of low cost energy and a good regulatory environment that's really bolster up the business out there.
Wow, that's really interesting. And it makes sense that mining Bitcoin with excess energy just works. It just makes sense, right? And now, like you're saying, everywhere else, or lots of parts of the world, energy prices are just getting higher and higher. Do you think that mining Bitcoin with excess energy will be the only way to profitably mine Bitcoin one day?
Absolutely. And I think it's going to happen a lot faster than what people think. I think that right now, I personally believe, inflation's sticky. You could have asked me before this print that happened this morning. Look, I think that we have structural issues in the energy market that are going to take a while to work their way out. We're behind on very rich energy development, such as nuclear, and we've put a lot of our hope into some of the more intermittent sources that are not as reliable, that are not as solid, and really are just mainly exporting the carbon to a different country. And because of that, I think we're really behind, and we can kind of dig deeper into that at a later point. But it really, right now, I see that energy costs are going to get high. There's going to be other competition. Eventually, price of Bitcoin probably makes a little bit, higher hash price to where we do have more projects that might become viable again. But if you want to be viable all the time, you go out and you make your own power. You find waste energy. Whether it's cogeneration from an asset or a process, an industrial process, or excess that you can't sell into the grid that's being produced from some intermittent source, or it's stranded gas that you run through a generator and run a few mining containers off of that. If you look at the pricing to produce that power, or the wholesale cost of what that power's worth, then you're almost always profitable if you go back in the history of mining Bitcoin. And I would be confident deploying capital into that space right now. And I would tell anyone that has that type of ability to do so, or has the energy, or maybe has the capital they want to go in, that, we need to talk, because this is certainly an opportunity that if you execute now, when the market does turn around, that's where you're going to see that outsized gain.
Right. And you briefly answered this question in your last response a little bit, but I was hoping you could expound on it too. But it really does make sense that energy sources that create too much electricity can be directly used to power a Bitcoin mine. But what about other excess energy sources, like gas wells? You're mentioning nuclear. What else can be used to mine Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, so both of those, like finding gas that would otherwise be flared or vented, I think is top of the list of things that people should be looking at to hook up generation assets and use to mine Bitcoin. It's something that's much better for the environment, and it's solving an issue for all parties involved. When you look at nuclear, you may have too much power when that plant is constructed for the grid to handle at that time. And that's a great opportunity to use some type of, controllable load resource, which is Bitcoin, that you could, put a mine behind the plant. And that's what's been done. That's what we've done in the hydro world. That's what people are out there doing and underneath wind and solar farms. And, there's a different set of engineering that goes into different design depending on what your end goal is. But, there's going to, so much energy is wasted right now, or underutilized or underpriced. And Bitcoin's going to fix that. I mean, it's going to fix it very quick. It's doing it now, and it's going to happen to where there's going to be no wasted energy, or very little wasted energy, in the coming years. And it's not going to take long. People have figured this out.
Right. And I was reading in the news today, won't name any specifics, but some politicians are not in favor of Bitcoin mining, saying that it's not green. Can you explain where these kinds of assumptions come from, and how Bitcoin mining can actually be a great solution for utilizing energy that would normally be wasted?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things here. I think that, Bitcoin's truly decentralized. There is for people that are, let's just say close to the money printer and the legacy finance, a lot of them have a very negative connotation because, if you look at it's hard to make money off of Bitcoin unless you join the network, and you're in it and you're doing something. It doesn't have that same seigniorage as, the fiat currencies. I think that where a lot of people, see Bitcoin and say, oh, that uses energy, that wastes energy. They don't really understand the concept of, it's one of the few things that people ever really can quantify its energy, because you can, very simply, because we can see how big the network is. If we compare it to things like other industries like gold mining, and all, which are, there's more energy being used, and the problem that people look at is, first of all, kind of thinking that using energy is bad. And Bitcoin is, for one, going to use energy. I mean, and if you look at anything that produces good, it uses energy. Now, what happens is that Bitcoin is engineered in such a beautiful way that it's so hyper competitive that it's going to force you to only use energy that makes financial sense in the long run. So it's going to use the energy that no one was going to use anyway, or be able to use anyway. And that's just fact. And so, we've got to look at look, do I think we need to go dig up coal out the ground and mine Bitcoin? No, but I mean, that is what someone would do if that were profitable. But guess what? No one's doing that because it's not profitable. And so what you're going to see is it's happening right now on more of a state and local level, is this political game theory that Bitcoiners are starting to educate people that are in government, and even, there's some on the federal level. I mean, I talked to some higher level federal politicians just in the last couple months, and they're interested because they see that, hey, this could potentially make a more resilient grid. This could potentially bring in jobs. This could potentially give us a more secure future, as we have a savings technology that allows people to preserve value. And some are going to get it, some are not. The ones are not, I think, are going to eventually, it's going to be a black eye to their career, is my opinion, because this is game theory. It's the same as if a country, if you look at China is now, they've decided to sit this one out, which could be the biggest technological revolution, in hundreds of years. China decided that they're out of it. They banned Bitcoin mining. And is that what the US is going to do? I don't think so. I think they're smarter. I think that politicians, I think that, if you read this report that just came out last week, it was taken negatively at first until people really started diving into it, and they saw that, hey, I mean, they basically just vetted Bitcoin mining as a wonderful technology that can do all the things that I just said, such as strengthen the grid, capture waste energy, and even lower emissions by capturing, venting methane that's coming out of landfills, that's coming out of leaking gas wells. And so, that's what I think politicians are going to see. They're going to try to align themselves with that. And I think Bitcoiners will be able to see through, the people that are just pandering and the people that are truly believe in and want to help further the cause, and people that are going to be on the mission to see that, this is an escape valve for us to be able to put our currency or our not currency, but our savings, and know that it's going to be still worth something when we're much older and we need
it. Wow. So why should an owner of an excess energy source, such as a hydro plant, gas well, whatever it is, seriously consider partnering with Liquihash?
Yeah. So, look, we're capitalized. We've got access to power generation assets. We've got, all the technology needed from, any type of generation that may be needed to all the way down to the miner and infrastructure in between, and a team of energetic professionals that, are very confident that, depending on your situation, can find a solution that is going to make more sense for you in all regards, socially, financially, and like I said, I've said in previous calls that we've done, it depends. If you don't have that energy source and you have the capital and you're looking at something you need yield on, we've got ways that we can work together. We've got ways that if you just simply want Bitcoin, you want exposure to it, that we can help you out with that. And if absolutely you have some way to access energy at a wholesale, sub-wholesale cost, off grid, behind the meter, then we definitely need to talk.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your responses, Nic, and thank you for everyone who's tuned in and listened, whether it's their first time listening or they've listened to many podcasts. If you have any questions or want to contact Nic, just go to liquihash.com. That's liquihash.com. Thanks for tuning in again, and we will see you next week. Thanks again, Nic.
Thanks, Charlie.